Our last speaker for this afternoon's event is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Orange and Bronze Software Labs. Prior to Orange and Bronze, he worked in Ayala Systems and was a freelance consultant and trainer. He is currently on his 5th term as part of the board of the Philippine Software Industry Association, serving as the technology director and head of the technology council. He has initiated and participated in programs that support the Philippine Academy by providing free training and enablement seminars to teachers through the Philippine Society of IT Educators, PSI, offering technology training modules for TESTA, as well as contributing to other programs aimed at enhancing the knowledge and skills of IT educators in the Philippines. He completed his bachelor's degree at the University of the Philippines and has taken units for a master's in computer science as well as business administration in the same university. A Sun certified enterprise architect for the J2EE platform, a certified web component developer, and a certified Java programmer. He also co-founded Pinoy Job, or the Association of Philippine Java Developers, and served as organization's president for 6 years. His presentation for this afternoon is entitled Why Most IT Projects Fail. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Calen Legaspi.
Hi, good afternoon. I'll show you a bit of a cartoon that maybe you've seen before. So this is how projects really work, how the customer explained what he needed, how the project leader understood what the customer needed, how the analyst designed the system, how the programmer wrote it, how the business consultant described what the system is gonna look like at the end, how the project was documented, how much the project cost, in the end what the customer really needed. Everybody's pretty much involved in IT here, IT projects, so this is, I don't need to go into lengthy explanations. Siguro naman everybody's had similar experiences and can relate to this cartoon. Okay. One of the most comprehensive studies in IT projects is the Chaos Report. So they release this report every 2 years. They started in 1995. When it did come out in 1995, it was well, it was a very interesting. It had very interesting and controversial results. It was the first comprehensive study on success and failure of software projects conducted by the consulting company, the Standish Group, updated roughly every 2 years. It's a survey of IT executive managers across multiple industries, large and small, various industries, including government. So they classified projects as successful if they're on time, on budget, and the features. Challenged if the project was completed but it went over budget, over time, and it's missing some or missing some features, and impaired if the project was cancelled. Okay, so it classified projects as that, and then this is the result of their first survey. It came out in 1995 based on survey in 1994. Only 16% of projects were considered successful. So those of you who are frustrated with your software projects, you're not alone. Okay. You are commiserating along with 84% of the rest of the IT population. I already just combined the reasons for challenged and cancelled, challenged and impaired, because they're pretty similar. Lack of user involvement was very common. There was a high response rate for this. Incomplete requirements, changing requirements, lack of executive support, unrealistic expectations, unrealistic time frames, lack of planning. The project just ended up not being needed anymore. Lack of resources, lack of competence with the technology being used. But of course, there was that 16% that was successful. And then, among the reasons that they cited were user involvement, smaller project milestones, ownership, and a focused staff. Okay, let's step back a bit and just by my experience, it's probably similar to your experience, how our big IT projects run. IT is left to IT. The business has a situation, it thinks it needs an IT solution. Here, IT, do this, solve our problem. Okay, great. So there's lack of involvement by the stakeholders, the people who need it, who need the system. Okay, matrix organizations. So people that, IT projects are difficult, but people are rarely dedicated to the IT projects. Accountability, if the project even bothers to assign people from different departments to be involved, the accountability of those people are still to their department heads, not even to the project itself. In fact, even in IT departments, they're all, or IT companies, a lot of them, they're involved in one IT project. They're already part of the same IT department, but they still report to different groups. So this resource for business analysis reports to the business analysis department and the business analyst department head. The architect reports to the architecture group. The software developers report to the programming group. They work in different floors. Every little problem, every little situation, you need, it takes forever to resolve because you only communicate by email. So poor communication, they don't bother to co-locate. Simple issues take a long time to resolve. Companies think, okay, let's try to get it right this time by writing big upfront requirements. Let's spend a lot of time doing the requirements and this is gonna make our next IT project successful. But when you do that, sige, sisingit ko na lahat ng gusto ko. So stakeholders will ask for the moon. This is my opportunity to ask for what I want. I might not get everything I want, so I'll ask a lot. Documentation is so voluminous that often it's inconsistent and conflicting. Here's a 700-page document, 120-page document. How many people actually read those documents? How many people, what army will be used to verify that all those requirements are not conflicting and they're consistent? Okay. Thick documentation gives a false sense of confidence. Look at how much documentation we've written. We've done our duty. This project is going to work because of all the documentation. We've done all the upfront work, so everything's going to flow smoothly. Okay. And the business outcomes are poorly or not defined. I have yet to see an RFP in my career that says these are the business outcomes we want. Okay. They talk a lot about requirements, about features, but not much about the business outcomes. Do they want to lower costs by this much? Do they want to raise market share by this much? Do they, So lack of measurable, observable criteria for the success of the project, despite voluminous requirements documentation. Okay? So lack of business outcomes, measurable, observable business outcomes. I'm sure everyone was taught this in school, the waterfall software development lifecycle, analysis, design, implementation, testing, the traditional software development lifecycle. In the traditional lifecycle, you do so much upfront work in one stage and you expect it to be perfect so that it's the perfect input for the next stage. But in truth, there's always mistakes in each stage. And you only find that out in the later stage. And it's so expensive and difficult to go back to the earlier stages to correct those mistakes. Right? Yeah, change becomes very expensive in the later stages. You find a bug when it's in QA. Where the heck do I start finding where to fix this bug? Oh, it's gonna change 100 lines of code, 1,000 lines of code, and I won't even know if those changes will work when I put it in. Okay. This is some numbers over time. It shows some improvement in the success rate. Towards 2008, the success rate was, I think, at about 30%. So slight, from 16% towards 2008, it became around 30%. Okay. So during those later years, similar things. People were saying similar things. I'll just highlight some of the things that were a little different. They talked about clear business objectives, not clear requirements, not clear specifications, but business objectives. So specified yung how much money we want to save, how many more customers we want to have, how much faster should our processes be. Business objectives. Am I too close to the... Okay. Talked about optimizing scope, meaning it's not, oh, this is what we need to build and that's it. They kept going back and reviewing the scope and refining and narrowing it down to what they needed. And they started talking about agile processes. Maybe some people here have heard of agile software development, maybe some people haven't. I'll talk about what this new thing started coming out, which started coming out in sometime in the last decade. So what's this new thing, agile software development? It's basically a family of methodologies that advocate lightweight and more human software development processes. So it's not just one software development process. It's different software development processes that started appearing in the 90s. They came together. We're doing something similar. Let's have some kind of umbrella philosophy. Let's give it a name. So they got together one day, all these different processes: extreme programming, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Crystal, etc. And they said, "Oh, let's have a statement of philosophy and let's call it something." And they called it Agile. Coined in 2001 by creators of similar methodologies reacting to heavyweight methodologies. Heavyweight meaning there's too much work that does not involve to actually building something useful. The older methodologies that did a lot of work that didn't contribute to the success of a project. So there's emphasis on customer satisfaction in Agile. What are the things we need to do to make the customer happy? What are the things we need to do to make the developers, the people involved in the project, satisfied with their work, not just the developers, but everyone in all stakeholders. And taking out the things that aren't necessary. Okay. Simple lang Agile. It talks a lot about culture. Values and attitude of people involved are just important as the practices and processes. And it relied heavily on automation for quick feedback, automated tests, code quality metrics, acceptance criteria, automated build and deployment. Okay, heavy use of automation. In 2009, the latest surveys, Agile is already the most popular software development process. And probably even more so now. I was at the Agile 2012 conference in Dallas just a few months ago. And even the US military is using Agile across the board for its IT projects. So even government is now adopting, US government is adopting Agile. Okay. Some aspects of software development that Agile covers. Most people think Agile is just project management. But it also covers, the engineering side, the business analysis side, quality assurance, the user experience side. No one methodology covers all these aspects, and no one methodology covers all situations. So it's very broad. It's a very long and very broad field of study. Some of the Agile practices, this isn't, take us forever to do discussions on Agile. One, I'll just pick out a few, cherry pick some. Interdisciplinary co-located teams. For example, there's the Telco Quest a few years back before they were acquired. When they started adopting Agile about a decade ago, one of their projects, they needed to build this phone dialing system. So they locked in one house, para silang Big Brother house, engineers, marketing people, and somebody's grandmother to act as a user to start to develop a prototype. So all these people, in one, hindi yung mahaba, they report to different bosses and they work in different offices and they have to organize a focus group. They were living in one house just to build a prototype. So ang bilis ng feedback loop nila. They were able to quickly deliver a product. They locked in somebody's grandmother to serve as the user. Kasi syempre, someone who's not technically savvy, di ba? Short iterations. So projects, deliver working systems, not not volumes of documentation or design documents, but working systems, very shortly, usually every 2 weeks, you deliver something so that you can get feedback. Working systems every 2 weeks. You grow, evolutionary yung development ng software, hindi big bang. So they get something very quickly and they can play around and say, oh, this is what I think. Working systems. Test-driven development. So, test-driven development means defining success criteria before you start building something. Down to the smallest unit, down to the method level. You know, every few lines of code, you define success scenarios, you create automated tests, and then before you start building it. So it's a very deliberate way of building software. From down to the smallest unit up to acceptance criteria. Continuous integration. You automatically build and deploy the entire system multiple times a day, running automated tests and other quality tools. So you get feedback on the entire system as it is built at the moment, multiple times a day. Hindi yung, okay, everyone, let's integrate towards the end, or let's see if it works. Refactoring, constantly improving the code design to make it easy to accommodate change. Because change is not if it will happen, it's when it's going to happen. And you need to make the system easy to accommodate change. DevOps. Basically, it's philosophy or methodology of integrating development and the operations. The systems admin, from the programmers to the IT department, the people who are actually managing production, into a seamless automated practice. Okay? So one-click deploys, one-click rollbacks. So from development and building and testing and all the way to deployment, integrated. Hindi hiwala yung operations people from the development people. Are Agile practices the answer? No. Okay? Many organizations have adopted Agile. Some have succeeded, but there's also a lot that have failed. Okay? And the hype around Agile does not help. There's a lot of hype around Agile. Everybody saying that, ganun naman sa IT, there's always hype. Saying this new thing in IT will solve all our problems. Of course not. Agile fails for multiple reasons. Culture of mistrust, performance measures in the organization are not aligned towards collaboration, but rather individual achievements. Maybe it's the capability of the personnel. And also, I blame a lot of Agile authors and consultants that preach silver bullets and snake oil, that this can solve everything. Like some Agile consultants are saying, teams should not have any leaders. Right. Okay. Improving the success rate of IT projects. Again, there's no silver bullets. We need slow and steady changes. Every organization is going to be different. So you attack how to improve the organization's success rate in different ways. Change is not just the practices, but also culture and performance measures. Okay. More aligned towards collaboration. Smaller project scopes with measurable business outcomes. Focus multidisciplinary co-located teams. Try to avoid matrix organization in projects. And IT is too important to leave to IT. Okay? The stakeholders have to be deeply involved in the success of the project, all stakeholders. Teams with end-to-end responsibility, to bring out business results, not just features, not just a list of features. No, and did I already say this? No silver bullets. Again, each organization is different, and some coaches might do more harm than good, but good pragmatic coaches that are down to earth and have a lot of experience can help organizations, especially if there's a lot of politics involved. You need someone neutral to say, it's mas maganda siguro if we meet in the middle and do this, diba? Remember, in 2001, these different groups came together and came up with the term Agile. They came up with this. This is pretty much the document that they came up with to crystallize what they had in mind, the Agile Manifesto. We are uncovering better ways of developing software and doing it by helping others and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Okay? So, hindi naman binabaliwala ang processes and tools. Importante daw yun. Pero mas importante, yung mga individuals and interactions between those individuals. I have never witnessed a project where people say, oh, buti na lang we have this process and we have these tools. It doesn't matter that no one in the people were not motivated, or people were not skilled, or people were not. In the end, the project is all, regardless what process they used or tool they used. Dahil si ganito, he was dedicated to the project. Dahil ito, alam niya ginagawa niya, tapos committed siya sa project. It's still the individuals and their interactions. Working software over comprehensive documentation. I don't have to elaborate. You cannot use documentation, you use software. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. You can have the perfect contract, but if the two groups hate each other, you'll never get anything done. Responding to change over following a plan. If the plan is wrong, if you are building a desktop system but everybody has gone to the web or everybody has gone mobile, what's the point in following the plan? Diba? There is value in the items on the right, but we value the items on the left more. Okay, the things on the right have to support the things on the left. They're also important, but they're there to support the things on the left. A little bit on Agile at our company. We've been doing it since the very day we were founded in 2005, even before it became a mainstream thing here in the Philippines. We tried different methodologies and practices, XP, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Crystal. And we realized not all practices work in all conditions. We were the first to offer training and coaching in Agile in the country. Different practices and methodologies, business analysis, quality assurance, not just software development. And our trainers and coaches are seasoned practitioners. And some of our officers and architects have actually spoken in Agile conference here and abroad. The reason why I was in Dallas for Agile 2012 is one of our officers spoke there. Also yung Agile tour in Hong Kong a while ago, a few months ago. And some of our clients for software development, training and coaching. Yep. So that's all right. Thank you.